You've been calling yourself lazy for years and you didn't even notice the real problem was never laziness at all. Every time you hit snooze and told yourself tomorrow. Every time you started strong and quit by day 4. Every time you knew exactly what needed to be done and did something easier instead. That wasn't laziness. That was a missing system. And today, that system gets built. I'm about to break down 7 laws of discipline that Marcus Aurelius used to run an empire while burying his own children, that Epictetus used to build an unshakable mind after being born a slave, that Seneca used to stay calm while an emperor ordered his death. These aren't motivational quotes. These are operating instructions. Most people think discipline means forcing yourself through pain with willpower alone. They think the disciplined man is just suffering more than everyone else, gritting his teeth, white-knuckling his way through the day. They're wrong. Willpower is the weakest form of discipline there is. It runs out by 3 p.m. It collapses the moment you're tired, stressed, or hungry. Real discipline isn't about having more willpower than other men. It's about needing willpower less. Think about the men you actually admire for their discipline. Chances are, none of them look like they're suffering. They look calm, settled, almost bored by the very things that would exhaust someone else. That calm isn't an accident, and it isn't a personality trait they were simply born with. It's the visible result of a system built so thoroughly that the daily grind of discipline stopped requiring visible effort a long time ago. The Stoics understood this 2,000 years before modern psychology caught up. They knew that a man who has to fight himself every single day to do the right thing is not disciplined. He's exhausted. True discipline is a structure you build once, so that doing the right thing stops requiring a fight at all. In the next several minutes, you'll learn exactly how to build that structure. You'll learn why your morning decides your entire day before you've even opened your eyes. You'll learn why comfort is the most dangerous drug a man can take. You'll learn the exact difference between men who talk about change and men who actually become someone different. Before we begin, understand what this video is not. It's not another pep talk designed to make you feel motivated for 20 minutes before the feeling fades on the drive home. Motivation was never the missing ingredient in your life. You've had plenty of motivated mornings that produced nothing lasting at all. What's been missing is a system that works whether the motivation shows up or not, because the men who actually change their lives permanently are not the ones who feel inspired most often. They're the ones who built a structure sturdy enough that inspiration became optional. Every law in this video builds on the one before it, so pay attention to the order, not just the individual pieces. This is not a menu where you pick your favorite 3 and ignore the rest. This is a sequence, each law reinforcing the next, until by the end you have something far more durable than a burst of temporary willpower. You have an entire operating system for how you move through your own life. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I choose discipline. Let's begin. Number 1. Win the first 60 seconds. The single most important moment of your entire day is not your workout. It's not your morning meeting. It's the 60 seconds after your alarm goes off, before your feet hit the floor. Here's what nobody tells you. That moment is a vote. Every single morning, you cast a vote for the man you're becoming. Hit snooze, and you've voted for the version of you that negotiates with discomfort. Get up immediately, and you've voted for the version of you that does what needs doing regardless of how he feels about it. Most men think discipline shows up later in the day, in the gym, at the desk, in the big decisions. It doesn't. It shows up in that first 60 seconds, and everything after is just momentum from the vote you already cast. Marcus Aurelius wrote himself a note about this exact struggle, the pull to stay wrapped in warmth instead of doing what a man is built to do. He reminded himself that he was not put on this earth to feel cozy. He was put here to work, to act, to move. If an emperor had to fight this battle every single morning, you are not broken for struggling with it too. Here's the mechanism. The moment you hit snooze, you teach your own brain a lesson it will remember all day. It learns that your word is negotiable. That when you say 6 a.m., you actually mean 6:15, or 6:30, or whenever you finally feel like it. And once your brain learns your word doesn't hold at 6 a.m., it stops trusting your word for anything else either. Get up the instant the alarm sounds and you teach your brain the opposite lesson. Your word is law. What you say, you do, immediately, without negotiation. That lesson, learned once in the first 60 seconds, echoes through every decision you make for the rest of the day. This is not about mornings for the sake of mornings. It's about proving to yourself, before the world has even asked anything of you, that you are a man who does not need to feel like it in order to do it. Think about the last time you actually did this, got up the instant the alarm sounded, no negotiation, no snooze. Notice how different that day felt from the days you fought yourself for 15 extra minutes under warm blankets. The task list wasn't different. The weather wasn't different. You were different, because you started the day already having proven something to yourself instead of already having lost to yourself. This single habit, mastered, becomes the foundation everything else on this list is built on top of. Skip it, and you're trying to build discipline on a cracked foundation, wondering why the rest of your day keeps collapsing by early afternoon. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My word is law. Number 2. Do the hardest thing first. Every single day, there's one task you're avoiding. You know exactly what it is. It's sitting there in the back of your mind, quietly draining you every time you think about it and don't do it. Most men save the hard thing for later. They tell themselves they'll warm up first, handle the easy stuff, build momentum, and then tackle the difficult task once they're ready. Here's the problem. You are never going to feel ready. Readiness is a myth designed to keep you comfortable while the hard thing keeps waiting. Every hour you delay the difficult task, it grows heavier. Not because the task itself changes, but because your dread about it compounds. By the time you finally sit down to do it at 4 in the afternoon, you've already spent the entire day carrying a weight you could have set down at 9 in the morning. Epictetus taught that suffering comes not from the task itself, but from our resistance to it. The dread you feel about the hard thing is worse than the hard thing. Every time. Once you're actually doing it, the anxiety disappears, replaced by simple, focused action. The suffering was never in the task. It was in the anticipation. So flip the order completely. The moment you sit down to work, before email, before the easy wins, before anything that feels good to check off a list, you attack the one thing you've been avoiding. You do it while your discipline is freshest, before the day has a chance to drain you into an excuse. Here's what happens when you do this consistently. The hard thing stops being hard. Not because the task gets easier, but because you stop fearing it. You've proven to yourself, over and over, that the dread was always bigger than the reality. And a man who no longer fears difficulty becomes a man that difficulty can no longer control. Picture two versions of the same man on the same morning. One opens his laptop and immediately checks messages, answers the easy emails, feels productive for an hour while the difficult project sits untouched, growing heavier with every passing minute. The other opens his laptop and goes straight for the difficult project first, uncomfortable, unmotivated, doing it anyway. By 10 in the morning, one of them has already won the day. The other is still warming up for a fight he keeps postponing. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I attack what I fear first. Number 3. Consistency beats intensity every single time. Here's a mistake almost every man makes at least once. He gets motivated. He goes all in. 2-hour workouts, 5 a.m. wake-ups, a completely overhauled diet, all starting on a Monday with fire in his eyes. By Thursday, he's exhausted. By the following week, he's quit entirely, and he's worse off than before he started because now failure is added to the list of things he believes about himself. Intensity feels powerful in the moment. It photographs well. It makes a good story to tell yourself. But intensity without consistency is just a burst of effort that burns out and leaves nothing behind except another broken promise to yourself. The Stoics never chased intensity. They chased repetition. Marcus Aurelius didn't write his reflections once in a blaze of inspiration. He wrote them daily, small entries, consistent practice, for years, in a tent, on campaign, exhausted, uninspired, doing it anyway because the doing was the discipline, not the mood behind it. Here's the math nobody explains to you. A small task done every single day for a year outperforms an enormous effort done once and abandoned. 20 minutes of training, every day, for a year, will transform your body more completely than a 2-hour session done 3 times before you quit. 1 page of writing, every single day, produces a finished book. 20 pages written in a single burst of inspiration, followed by silence, produces nothing at all. Discipline is not about how hard you can push in a single moment. It's about how reliably you show up when the moment offers you nothing exciting at all. The unglamorous, boring, forgettable Tuesday where you do the small thing anyway, that Tuesday is worth more than any dramatic Monday morning transformation you've ever attempted. Lower the bar until you cannot possibly justify skipping it. Then show up at that lowered bar every single day without exception. Consistency compounds. Intensity evaporates. If you can't commit to an hour, commit to 10 minutes. If 10 minutes feels like too much on your worst days, commit to 5. The size of the action matters far less than the unbroken chain of showing up. A small chain, unbroken for a year, will outlast a massive effort broken after 9 days, every single time you measure the results honestly instead of measuring how impressive the effort looked in the moment. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I show up every day. Number 4. Stop negotiating with your own excuses. You already know what your excuses sound like. I'm too tired today. I'll start Monday. I deserve a break. Just this once won't matter. Here's what you need to understand about every single one of them. They're not requests for information. They're negotiations. And the moment you start negotiating with your own excuses, you've already lost, because the excuse only needs to win once to break the chain, while you need to win every single time to keep it intact. Seneca warned that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. Your excuse is built entirely in imagination. It tells you the workout will be brutal, the work will be overwhelming, the discomfort will be unbearable. None of that is true until you actually begin. The excuse is a lie your mind tells you to protect you from a difficulty that, in reality, is never as bad as the story predicting it. Here's the discipline move. Stop debating your excuses. Debating gives them legitimacy. The moment you start arguing with yourself about whether you're too tired to train, you've already given the excuse a seat at the table, and excuses are excellent debaters. They will win almost every argument you have with them, because they only have to convince you once. Instead, treat the excuse the way you treat background noise. Acknowledge it exists. Don't respond to it. Do the task anyway, mid-excuse, without waiting for the feeling of readiness to arrive. The feeling was never going to arrive before the action. It shows up after, once you're already moving. Every time you catch an excuse forming and act anyway, you weaken its grip permanently. Every time you negotiate with it and let it win, you strengthen it for the next fight. You are training your own mind, every single day, whether you realize it or not, to either respect your word or ignore it completely. Notice the specific language your excuses use, because it repeats. Just this once. I'll make it up tomorrow. It doesn't really matter. These phrases feel harmless individually. Strung together over months, they become the entire architecture of a man who never quite becomes who he claims he wants to be. Catch the phrase the instant it appears, and treat catching it as the entire victory. The action that follows becomes almost automatic once the excuse has been named for what it actually is. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My excuses don't get a vote. Number 5. Discipline in private is the only discipline that counts. Anyone can be disciplined when someone's watching. The gym is full of men performing effort for an audience. The office is full of men performing focus for a manager standing nearby. That's not discipline. That's theater. Real discipline is what you do when literally nobody would ever know the difference. It's the extra rep when the room is empty. It's turning off the show you told yourself you'd only watch one episode of, at midnight, alone, when no one is there to see whether you kept your word or broke it. Marcus Aurelius wrote his private reflections specifically because no one else would read them. He wasn't performing virtue for Rome. He was building it in private, in the only place it actually matters, in the moments completely unwitnessed by anyone but himself. Here's why this matters more than almost anything else on this list. Character is not what you do when you're being watched. Character is what you do when you're completely alone and no consequence exists except the quiet knowledge of whether you kept your own word to yourself. A man who is disciplined in public but undisciplined in private is not disciplined at all. He's simply performing for an audience, and the moment the audience disappears, so does the discipline. Start paying attention to your private moments. The extra scroll before bed. The snack you eat standing at the counter when nobody's watching, telling yourself it doesn't count because no one saw it. It counts. It's the only thing that actually counts, because it's the truest measurement of who you are when there's nothing to gain from pretending. Ask yourself a simple question tonight. If a camera had been recording every private decision you made today, would you be proud to watch the footage back, or would you be embarrassed by how different the private version of you looks from the version you show everyone else? That gap, if it exists, is exactly where your real work begins. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I am the same man alone. Number 6. Rest deliberately or collapse eventually. Here's where most men misunderstand discipline entirely. They think it means constant pressure, no days off, grinding every single hour until they physically cannot continue anymore. That's not discipline. That's a man running from something, using exhaustion as a distraction from whatever he doesn't want to sit still long enough to feel. The Stoics rested with the exact same intention they brought to their work. Rest was not the absence of discipline. Rest was discipline applied to recovery, chosen deliberately instead of collapsed into out of sheer necessity after the body finally forced the issue. There's a massive difference between a man who rests because he planned to and a man who crashes because he had no choice left. The first man stays in control the entire time. The second man has already lost control, and he's simply calling the crash a rest day to protect his own ego. Undisciplined rest looks like this. You push until you break, then collapse into hours of mindless scrolling, exhausted, guilty, unable to actually recover because guilt doesn't let the nervous system settle. Disciplined rest looks completely different. You decide, in advance, this is a recovery day. You engage in it fully, without guilt, because you know rest is not the opposite of progress. It's a required component of it. A man who never rests deliberately will eventually be forced to rest involuntarily, and involuntary rest always costs more than the deliberate kind, in time, in health, in momentum lost while rebuilding from a collapse that could have been prevented entirely. You've likely seen both versions of this man in your own life. The one who runs himself into the ground for months, then vanishes entirely for weeks once his body finally forces the issue. And the one who builds recovery into his schedule the same way he builds in his hardest training sessions, deliberately, without guilt, and returns from it stronger instead of simply less broken than before. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I rest on purpose. Number 7. The pause is where discipline actually lives. Every failure of discipline you have ever experienced happened in the same place. Not in a big dramatic moment, but in a tiny gap between an impulse and an action, a gap so small most men never even notice it exists. The impulse arrives. Skip the workout. Eat the thing. Say the sharp comment you'll regret. And in undisciplined men, that impulse travels directly into action with no interruption at all, as if the impulse and the behavior were the exact same thing. Epictetus taught that between what happens to us and how we respond, there is a space, and in that space lives our entire power as human beings. Most men never find that space. They live as if impulse and action are fused together, permanently, with no room to intervene. Here's the discipline. Insert a pause. Just one breath, 1 second, one moment of separation between the impulse and whatever you're about to do about it. That single pause is where every disciplined decision in this entire video actually gets made. Not in the workout, not in the morning routine, but in that tiny, almost invisible gap where you finally get to choose instead of simply react. Practice this pause deliberately, starting today, in the smallest moments, so it's available to you in the largest ones. The urge to snap at someone who doesn't deserve it. The urge to quit 10 minutes before you actually finish. The urge to break a promise you made to yourself in a moment of weakness nobody else would ever witness. Pause there. That pause, practiced enough times, becomes the entire architecture of the disciplined life. Every man in this video who mastered any of the 6 laws before this one was really just mastering this single skill, applied to a different moment. The morning alarm is an impulse and a pause. The hard task is an impulse to avoid it and a pause before you sit down anyway. The excuse is an impulse to believe it and a pause before you act regardless. Every law you've heard today collapses down into this one mechanism, practiced over and over until it stops requiring conscious effort at all. Number 8. Identity beats motivation every single time. Here's the final piece almost no one tells you, and it's the reason the first 7 laws either stick permanently or quietly fade after a few strong weeks. Motivation is a feeling. Feelings are unreliable by nature. They rise, they fall, they abandon you exactly when you need them most, usually on a cold morning when the bed feels warmer than any goal ever could. Identity is different. Identity doesn't ask how you feel. It simply states who you are, and then the behavior follows automatically, without negotiation, because that's just what a man like that does. Compare 2 men trying to build the exact same habit. The first man tells himself he's trying to become disciplined. Every choice becomes a negotiation, a battle between the man he currently is and the man he's hoping to become. Some days he wins. Many days he loses, because trying implies the outcome is still genuinely uncertain. The second man doesn't tell himself he's trying to become disciplined. He tells himself, plainly, I am a disciplined man. Not someday. Now. And once that identity is settled, the actions stop requiring motivation altogether, because a disciplined man simply does the disciplined thing, the same way an honest man simply tells the truth without needing to talk himself into it first. Marcus Aurelius did not wake up each morning asking himself whether he felt like being virtuous that day. He had already decided, long before, exactly what kind of man he was. The daily actions were just that identity expressing itself, over and over, regardless of mood, regardless of exhaustion, regardless of whether Rome was burning or at peace. This is why the first 7 laws on this list will fail for some men and transform others completely. The men who fail are still asking themselves whether they feel like doing the disciplined thing today. The men who succeed have already answered a deeper question first. Who am I? Once that question is settled, permanently, the daily behavior stops being a decision at all. It simply becomes who you are. Say it now, out loud if you're willing, silently if you're not. I am a disciplined man. Not because you've proven it yet with years of evidence. Because the proof follows the identity, not the other way around. Every disciplined man alive today once had to decide who he was before he had the evidence to back it up. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I am already disciplined. Number 9. Track it or lose it. Here's a truth almost no one wants to hear because it removes every excuse in one sentence. What you don't measure, you will eventually abandon, no matter how strong your intentions were on day 1. Memory lies. Not because you're dishonest, but because the human brain is built to smooth over gaps, to round a missed week into a minor blip instead of the pattern it actually was. Ask any man who's quietly slipped from training 5 days a week down to once a week over 3 months whether he noticed the decline happening in real time. He didn't. It happened one skipped day at a time, each one individually forgivable, until the accumulated total told a story his memory never let him see clearly. A simple mark on a calendar, an unbroken chain of small proofs that you did the thing you said you would do, removes the guesswork entirely. You don't need to trust your feelings about how consistent you've been. You can look at the evidence directly. Seneca kept a nightly accounting of his own day, reviewing where he had acted well and where he had failed, not to punish himself, but to see clearly. Clarity, he understood, was the beginning of correction. A man who cannot see his own pattern cannot fix it, no matter how much willpower he tries to throw at a problem he's misjudging the size of. Start tracking the one habit that matters most to you right now. Not everything. One thing. Watch the chain grow. And notice how differently you treat day 14 of an unbroken streak compared to a random Tuesday with nothing attached to it at all. The chain itself becomes a source of discipline that requires no motivation whatsoever, because breaking it now costs something visible and specific, not just an abstract feeling of having let yourself down again. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I track what matters. Number 10. Design your environment before you trust your willpower. Here's the final law, and it might be the most quietly powerful one on this entire list, because it removes the fight before the fight ever needs to happen. Most men treat willpower like a muscle they need to strengthen through repeated confrontation. Fight the temptation. Resist the urge. Win the internal battle through sheer force. That works occasionally. It fails constantly, because willpower is a finite resource that depletes throughout the day, and by evening, most men have none left to spend. The disciplined man doesn't rely on willpower nearly as much as you'd expect. He simply removes the fight in advance. He doesn't keep the thing he's trying to avoid sitting in arm's reach, silently daring him to break at his weakest hour. He designs the room, the schedule, the environment itself, so that the disciplined choice becomes the easy one and the undisciplined choice becomes mildly inconvenient. Marcus Aurelius understood the power of preparation before temptation ever arrived. He rehearsed difficult encounters in his mind before they happened, so that when they actually occurred, he wasn't fighting the moment for the first time in real conditions. He'd already fought it once, in advance, on his own terms. Apply this practically. If discipline around food is the struggle, the fight is mostly already lost or won at the grocery store, long before hunger and willpower ever meet each other face to face in the kitchen at 9 at night. If discipline around your phone is the struggle, the fight is mostly decided by whether the phone is in the next room or sitting on the pillow beside you when you're trying to sleep. If discipline around your morning is the struggle, the fight is decided the night before, when your clothes are laid out and ready, or when they're not, and you're standing in a cold room trying to make decisions your tired brain isn't equipped to make well. You are not weaker than the men who seem effortlessly disciplined. In most cases, they've simply engineered fewer battles for themselves to fight in the first place. Stop admiring their willpower. Start studying their environment instead, because that's usually where the real advantage was built, quietly, long before anyone was watching. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I design my environment. In this video, you've learned to win the first 60 seconds of your day before your feet even hit the floor. You've learned to attack the hardest task first, before dread has a chance to compound. You've learned that consistency beats intensity every single time it's tested. You've learned to stop negotiating with your own excuses. You've learned that discipline in private is the only discipline that actually counts. You've learned to rest deliberately instead of collapsing involuntarily. You've learned that the entire discipline of a man's life lives inside a single pause between impulse and action. You've learned that identity, decided once and held firmly, will outlast motivation every single time motivation is tested by a hard morning. You've learned that what goes untracked eventually goes abandoned, no matter how strong the original intention felt on day one. And you've learned that the environment you build in advance will win more battles than the willpower you try to summon in the moment ever could. These are not motivational ideas. These are operating instructions, used by men who built empires, endured exile, and stayed calm in the face of death itself. If you apply them starting today, not tomorrow, not next Monday, today, your entire relationship with yourself will change. Understand something important before you go. None of these 10 laws require you to be a different person than you already are. They don't require talent. They don't require a personality transplant. They don't require you to wake up tomorrow feeling like a completely different man. They only require repetition, applied consistently, to the man already sitting here right now, watching this exact sentence. Most men who fail at discipline don't fail because the information was missing. You've likely heard versions of several of these laws before, from other sources, in other forms. They failed because they never turned information into identity. They collected knowledge the way some men collect tools they never actually use, sitting in a drawer, unopened, while the same old patterns kept running underneath, untouched by anything they'd learned. Knowing the first 60 seconds matter changes nothing if you hit snooze again tomorrow morning anyway. Knowing that consistency beats intensity changes nothing if you go all in this Monday and quit again by Thursday, the same pattern repeating itself with new information layered uselessly on top of old behavior. The gap between the men who read about discipline and the men who actually become disciplined is not a gap in knowledge. It's a gap in the very first action taken after the knowledge arrives. You have the operating instructions now. The only question left is whether you close this video and do something different in the next 10 minutes, or whether you close it and continue exactly as you were, slightly more informed but functionally unchanged. The next time your alarm goes off, get up. The next time the hard task is sitting there, do it first. The next time the excuse starts talking, act anyway, mid-sentence, without waiting for it to finish. The next time you're alone with a choice nobody else will ever know about, choose as if the whole world were watching, because the only person who actually needs to see it is you. So I'm asking you directly. Are you ready to stop negotiating with the weakest version of yourself? If your answer is yes, prove it. Drop "I am disciplined" in the comments right now. And before you go, if this reached you, hit that like button, share it with a man who needs to hear it, and subscribe, because we are just getting started.